Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Oilers, Panthers, not too many people had it happening. How did we get here?
Well, we got there by the Edmonton Oilers drastically about the way they play, not just on Dave Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. They decided to start playing defense. The way they play without the puck has been sensational. Who would ever think they'd be the best penalty killing team? We expect the best power play team. And when you look at that, and then the Florida Panthers, you go back to them. They learned a lot of lessons last year. They've got a lot of scar tissue, a lot of bumps and bruises. They were not healthy enough last year to compete to win the Stanley Cup. They played in the finals, but it wasn't really them. And here we are with two gritty teams that play so well without the puck, that score goals when they need them. Incredible coaching, I believe, on both sides. Edmonton's made up for a short, maybe a deficiency in net at times by excellent defensive play, because they're the worst team in the league the first month of the season. They had the worst goaltending, and I don't blame it on the goaltenders. I blame it on how they were playing the game. They changed the coach, changed the systems, and all of a sudden they were the best team in the league from that day forward. Florida Panthers have been on a hot streak, and they just continue to roll and ride. So they're both deserving to be where they are at right now.
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show.
We were on the road with the Rough Riders. Joe Womack was our strength coach, and he was rooming with Ron Estee. I'm coming down the elevator with Joe Womack, and he is so mad. And I'm like, what's wrong, Joe? And he goes, you wouldn't believe what Estee did. He's in his underwear, and he emptied the mini box. Smarties and the Kit Kats, thinking it's free, thinking it was a gift basket. And Joe looks at me, it ain't fun.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome aboard. Choo-choo. Your favorite daytime sports talk show coming at you live on the Game Plus television network and on the Radio Key Radio, Noonan, Georgia, your southern home of sports and talk. Let's dive right in. Our guests today are Blue Jays podcaster, longtime Blue Jays talking head, Mike Wilner from the Deep Left Field podcast. Little spice last night at Rogers Center. And Kevin Carius joins me from Edmonton, my oldest media friend in this perilous trade from Sports 1440 Radio, former Edmonton Oilers broadcaster, longtime Global Sports. Those are the guests. Let's please bring in the Duke of Toronto, Darren Moose Dupont. How you doing, Moose? What's up, my dude? What do you got for me today?
Yeah, great day. You'll never guess. We never talked about this morning. What I'm doing tonight. Peter Labardius is picking me up. We're going to go to BMO Field, and we're watching Canada-Mexico women's soccer tonight, if you want to talk about Deep Left Field. Yeah.
That is very, very exciting. Well, I will expect a full report tomorrow, but we've got a lot to get to in the next 2 hours. Can you hit the Quick Six show horn, please, Director Jordan? And we'll go from there. I should mention, Moose is in Toronto, home of the last place Blue Jays. I am in the beautiful Golden Ticket Sports Center in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. I'm back in the prairies, Canada for the summer, and couldn't be happier. Point one, hockey's a big deal here. So the big story today is hockey fans in Edmonton, and many who are far, far away are counting down the hours until the Oilers hit the ice this weekend for the beginning of their first Stanley Cup Final series in nearly 2 decades. Edmonton has been in party mode since the playoffs began in April, and on Sunday night, they beat the Dallas Stars to clinch a cup berth. After the win, Oilers fans in the Northwest Territories celebrated under the midnight sun with a cavalcade of 50 or more cars, trucks, and ATVs driving up and down the gravel streets of Inuvik. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup goes Saturday night at sunrise, Panthers and the Oilers. I'm reading that from the Wire copy, the Canadian Press, but just to give people an idea, because, listen, Darren, they don't understand. Certainly not in Florida and probably a lot across America. Just the love of the teams in Canada for their NHL teams. So the hype's building. It's still only Tuesday. And I will tell you that we did the Cats and Bolts. We did an IG Live last night, Serena and I. And she was dreading this series. And she didn't want to say why, but I'll speak for her. My gal Serena, it's simply she's an Oilers fan living in South Florida. You can see why that's a juxtaposition for her. But it's been fun, Darren. It's been a lot of fun. How's it looking from your vantage point, this series?
Yeah. It's going to be a ton of fun, this series. And you watch social media, you have enough people that want Florida and Edmonton to both lose. They can't both lose. You got enough people wanting those teams to win as you have wanting them to lose. It's quite heated, and it is going to be a lot of fun. You got a lot of Canadians that would love to see another Canadian win a Stanley Cup. You got a lot of hockey fans that would love to see the greatest of the generation, Connor McDavid, win a Stanley Cup. But then you got a lot of fans, that would love to see Florida win it too. They haven't won one yet. They've been to the Cup final a couple of times now, last year, and then obviously way back in the 90s. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And we got all these days building up to it. I think what was the deal? Because they'll go game on, day off, game on, and then 2 days off before they switch locations. And then after game 4, it's 2 days off between every game. Some people are upset about the long break, just 2 games in 11 days and what that will do to momentum. But lots of time to talk about it.
Are you talking about momentum on the ice for the teams or in the outside?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
We're used to every day, right? Watching the games.
Yeah, exactly. But, Alan May was awesome yesterday. 80s Stanley Cup playoffs. 2 games in 2 nights, day off, travel, 2 games, 2 nights. Like, they're doing these series in a week. Right? Yeah. Now it's like 2-3 weeks, and I'm here for it. Why is there 2 weeks between Super Bowl, the conference championships and Super Bowl? Hype, planning. It's different, man. Get on board, which reminds me, the one thing, like Serena, you know her very well. Last night, she's like, why can't it just be about the hockey? Why can't we just talk about the matchups and this? I don't know, dear, but that's the way that it is. Why is Jay Onright on TSN last night spending 5 minutes with Jason Strudwick breaking down why Toronto's not cheering for Zach Hyman and the Oilers? Who cares? But this is where we are. So this is what we talk about when it's Stanley Cup play. I don't get it, but I get it. Let's get on board or get out of the way. Moving on, point 2, because we go fast here in the warm-up where we count down my quick 6 show topics. Number 2, ESPN talk host Pat McAfee has apologized for calling Caitlin Clark a, quote, white bitch during a Monday show segment over whether race has played a factor in the WNBA rookie's meteoric rise. The apology came hours after McAfee argued on his program, which airs on both ESPN and YouTube, that it is Clark and Clark alone who is behind the WNBA's surge in popularity this year, contending that some have argued that it's because she's a white player that she's become so popular. Pat McAfee, former Indianapolis Colts punter turned ESPN talk host. This is the topic of my commentary today, or one of the points anyways, at rodpedersen.com and on radio across the land. Don't get mad at McAfee. This is him. You can't beat a dog for being a dog. What did you think you were hiring, ESPN? This has always been Pat McAfee. And by the way, he wasn't calling her a bitch. It is locker room slang. Been around it forever. I referenced Serena once. I'll reference her again. This is a bitch, please. That's how they talk. Okay? So it's not a derogatory slang. Well, it is derogatory slang, but that's him. So just before we go any further, the poll question here is, should Pat McAfee be suspended for calling her a white B word? 61% saying no, and put me in the 61%. ESPN should not be surprised. And I feel sorry for Pat McAfee as much as you can feel sorry for a guy making $5 million a year. As much as I know, his show started around the same time as ours. It was 100% NFL. He used to drop F-bombs like crazy. And then he goes to ESPN, signs the big ticket, and now they're making him talk NHL. Making him talk WNBA because they air those leagues. And then he's got Indy 500 and Kentucky Derby, and they've made him put a shirt on, and he's completely changed. And there are those that say he's sold out, and I don't. Take the money. Anybody would have done that. But to force him to change, I would kind of like to sit him down and just say, hey, Pat, are you having fun? Which, by the way, I've been around. Every day at Super Bowl, I was around him. That photo that's running at rodpedersen.com right now, I was on his set at Super Bowl. He's a good guy. He's a football player, not historically known for splitting atoms. Sorry. What did you think? What did you think you were getting? Okay, that's my take. Don't get mad at him. That's what you hired. Deal or no deal?
Deal. I don't think ESPN I don't know if we know if ESPN is mad at him or not. We've seen people from ESPN, analysts, writers, that pundits that have, been upset and say this is unacceptable. I watched the clip before I knew it was even going to become a thing. And I didn't really think twice about it. I thought it was okay. He used the term very lightly on purpose to make light of it, to say, hey, this is what's going on here. It wasn't derogatory. It wasn't a segment or even a comment against Caitlin Clark. And he apologized. Okay, even when I took it lightly, I shouldn't use that term, whatever. So he'll move on. But ESPN signing him to the deal should know that this is what you're expecting, that, when you hire somebody that's this popular, but also a little controversial, and somebody called him a shock jock. You have to understand that you're gonna deal with some headlines. You're not just gonna sign him and then have no trouble whatsoever. There are going to be some things like this. So we'll see what ESPN's made of and how much they're willing to put up with. Because this should be, yes, issue an apology, but I don't see him getting suspended.
He did issue an apology, and as you say, we don't know that they're upset, but I would think, of course, they're upset. They're the type of operation, which most are. We don't want any problems, but, we're going to move on here. We got some good comments that have come in from the audience, but it's like he doesn't have any broadcast training. He was a football player that flipped on a mic on YouTube and away he went, which is fine, but he didn't have training. What happens when you put a kid behind the wheel of a tractor or a combine? Sink or swim. It could turn out disastrously. Would you put a guy behind the controls of a plane without being trained? No. Am I being a little dramatic? A little bit. But it's a big responsibility you gave him, and he has shown that he's not prepared for it with the way that he talks. But that's him. You put drivers on the road without training. What's going to happen? Disastrous consequences. In this case, maybe we have a little bit of hurt feelings. But they wanted the street cred, ESPN, to put on this guy, and this is what you get. So again, it was their decision is the problem, not him. But they are asking him to change by virtue of the content of his show, the way that he dresses, blah, 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 blah. And that's too bad. But I think he can sleep on his million stack of cash and probably sleep just fine. Carlos in Indianapolis writes in and says, some shows and channels require broadcast talk. Other shows and channels allow for locker room talk. Yeah, fair, but I think the line's been blurred as to what he is. Shane in Deer Valley writes in regarding the scheduling of the Stanley Cup. He says the extra days off drag the Cup finals too long and start to lose interest. Yeah, maybe. I guess the audience ratings will dictate that. Again, the NHL, $6.2 billion revenue last year, bro. We know what we're doing. Zip it. Huge Benno writes in. His name's Huge. He says, can the big guy get a happy birthday, Rod? Traveling to Edmonton on Saturday to watch my Riders taking on the Elks at Commonwealth. Who needs to wear a melon when their fans are flashing their... Kevin the Medium writes in, says, good morning, RP peeps. Go, Panthers, go. Canada's team. By the way, folks, you aren't going to like what I have to say coming up about the Riders, so stick around for that. And if you don't like them, you'll probably enjoy it. But happy birthday, Huge Benno. Drive safe. Point 3, the Toronto Blue Jays will be trying to level their 4-game series with the visiting Baltimore Orioles tonight at Rogers Center. The Jays dropped a 7-2 decision to the power-hitting Orioles Monday in the opener of a 4-game set. The Jays, who gave away Vladdy bobbleheads at the game, got a 4th-inning homer from their star first baseman in the loss. Austin Hayes hit 2 of the Orioles' 4 home runs in the victory. Tonight, WCBL baseball here in Moose Jaw. The Moose Jaw Millers will be hosting the Saskatoon Berries. That's right. We're going to be making jam tonight with the Saskatoon Berries at Roswell's Park. Come on out, 7:05 first pitch. Also, Weyburn's at Swifty, Lethbridge at Brooks, Edmonton at Okotoks. Hey, to the CFL. I thought we might save this for the next segment, but we're moving quick here, which is good. That's what we do. Couple things. Read the article where Corey Mace, the head coach of the Riders, the quote was he's working, establishing the culture. Quote, This has been twisted because people in the media don't really pay attention real closely to what the quotes are, and they say that he's changing the culture. No. That's not what he said. He said he's establishing the culture. That is to infer that there was no culture before. He's establishing the culture, or the culture that he wants, just to make the distinction. And I don't know, where did you see, Darren, that the Riders were underdogs for the game at Edmonton Saturday? Where did you see? Because I didn't even look at the point spread, but you did. Where did you see it first?
Yeah, I saw it on a sports book, and then actually after I looked at it, 3 Down actually has it up on their website.
Okay. So I went and looked
2.5 point underdog.
At North Star Bets, which, by the way, Bet Regal's become North Star Bet. Montreal at Winnipeg on Thursday. Bombers favored by 7. Friday night, Hamilton at Calgary. Bo Levi's return. Stampeders favored by 1. Sask at Edmonton Saturday. The Elks favored by 2.5 at home. And BC at Toronto. Sunday, Lions favored by 6.5. Record scratch. What? Did you say Edmonton's favored over Sask? You seemed so surprised. And I'm like, why would you be surprised? I mean, Corey Mace is establishing the culture. That's not his responsibility. And we got a couple minutes to get into this where we can here. It's not the head coach's responsibility. I'll give you a couple of examples. In Winnipeg with the Jets, Rick Bowness couldn't get it done. Paul Maurice couldn't get it done. Yeah, he's the problem. How's that working out? Calgary Flames, Ryan Huska was supposed to change the culture. Darryl Sutter, Jeff Ward, Bill Peters, and. It's not the coach. Goes higher. The Rough Riders are dysfunctional. New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new running back, new broadcaster. They are the exact opposite of stability. And here they are starting all over again. And they're going into Edmonton that has at least had the same guy in charge now for multiple seasons. New quarterback for sure, but a pretty darn good one, who's led teams to the Grey Cup, led the CFL in touchdowns in McLeod Bethel Thompson. So do you see now why Edmonton would be a little ahead in this game? Have I explained probably what the odds makers are looking at? What do you think?
Yeah, and I think part of it, too, they look at that preseason game. And you know, as I looked a little deeper into that preseason game between Saskatchewan and Edmonton, and it was in the 3 Down article that I was reading this morning, he said, well, Saskatchewan won that preseason game. They jumped out to that big lead. But Edmonton came all the way back. Yeah, they lost, but Edmonton seemed to lead or win the battle in every major statistical category in that game. Now, preseason is preseason. You're not playing your guys necessarily. But there's all those things that go into it, you know, where you think this team is going to be trajectory-wise, the moves that have been made in the offseason, coaching, all the rest. So, sure, that plays a big role.
They've done a wonderful job of painting this rosy picture that everything's great and Corey Mace is changing the culture. Meanwhile, you've missed the playoffs 2 straight seasons. You've ended the seasons on 7-game losing streaks. It's going to be more. It's all on one guy. That's what these teams do. He'll save us. He ain't the problem. Everybody that knows Corey Mason has worked with him, played with him, loves him. Going to take more than that. We'll be back. We're just getting rolling, everybody. Are you having fun yet? We're live on the Game Plus television network, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Everybody, the Saskatchewan Rattlers professional basketball team plays out of SaskTel Center, offering the best entertainment for all of Saskatchewan. Their season has started with leadership from their NBA experienced head coach and look to return to championship weekend this August. Get your tickets now by visiting Ticketmaster or head on down to the Rattlers front office in downtown Saskatoon. But we've got viewers all across Canada, in Alberta, in Calgary. The Surge welcome the Saskatchewan Rattlers on Wednesday, so get out and enjoy that game at Winsport. Let's bring in the Moosies in Toronto. There are 3 teams in his area in the CEBL. We love the league. By the way, the Silver Carpenter text line's open, 902-518-3033. I love all the comments, Darren, from the viewers as we roll. Brian in Hudson's Bay writes in regarding Pat McAfee having to apologize for calling Caitlin Clark a, quote, white bitch. Good morning, guys. I don't mind Pat McAfee, but in this day and age, I can't believe they keep him on national network TV. Surprised there are not groups out there getting him banned. As far as the hockey goes, I think it's ridiculous the amount of time it'll take to get this thing over. I'm already losing interest. I'll be in rider mode Saturday. I won't care much about game number 1 for the Stanley Cup. Have a good one, boys. That's from Brian in Hudson's Bay. Is there a threat of people losing interest? I don't know, because I'm not going to lose interest. So what do you think?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And let's also remember there's always interest lost every single round of the playoffs. You lose fans every round because a lot of fans cheer for their team and then they check out and they follow what's going on, but they don't watch. And that's normal in every sport, in every league. So there is a threat. Yeah, there's a threat of it losing some momentum for sure. Is the NHL worried about going up against the Canadian Football League? Maybe a little bit. In Canada, a little bit. But once it gets going, it'll be hot. It'll be going. It'll be crazy. I think we can find a way to balance the CFL season and the Stanley Cup Final.
Well, it's a really good point. And I mean, for those that have moved on because their team's out, because I talked to a Flames guy yesterday, he's like, I'm not even paying attention to the playoffs. And he works in the NHL. And I don't doubt it. I don't blame the guy. We're out. Well, I don't care. But there's this huge debate in Florida whether Lightning fans should be allowed to cheer for the Panthers. It's ridiculous. There's this one gal. Her Twitter handle's What the Kachuk. And I met her. Her husband manages the Yard House. And she calls it the fan police. She's like, who are you to tell anybody who to cheer for, how to cheer for, what? You know, and she's right. She's absolutely cheer for whoever you want. What makes it right or wrong? And yet this is the talk of what's going on now. And I'm just going along with it, man. It's a lot less frustrating. Oh, by the way, with regards to what Brian and Hudson's Bay said, he's surprised that McAfee's still on the air and that there aren't special interest groups petitioning to get him removed. We've done 1,258 shows. We are now in season 6. Have you ever had to issue an apology for anything I've said on this show? One time as the guy that started this show and owns it.
Not once. It's true. Not a single time. I'm trying to think if I've ever had to apologize for anything I've ever said on air ever. I don't think so, but
you did drop an F-bomb once. You did drop an F-bomb once.
I did drop an F-bomb once. That is true. And I apologized on this show for something I wrote. That was to Tim Hunter and Alan Miller. I think they were on the show. And I apologized to them for something I wrote. But that was just more fun and games. That was more just for fun. I've never had to issue an apology.
You apologized to lose a series. You apologized because you picked them to lose a series, which they did. Oh, my God, that still ticks me off that they would even be mad at you for that. I just say, for whatever reason, there's a lot of factions out there that want to say, well, I know who they are. I know. Because I've been told, they're like, Rod's volatile, Rod's uncontrollable, you never know what he's going to say, blah, 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 blah. 1,258 shows, never had to apologize for anything that I've said. It's a narrative that people try to purport, but our broadcast partners aren't listening to it. Jay in Winnipeg writes in, he goes, Canada's team? Oh, you mean the Bombers? Here we go. Jen at the Four Seasons writes in, and she says, good morning, y'all. That Nate? Hey, morning, bud. How you doing? Can't see you through the lights. Austin Gurney. See? Moose Jaw Millers. That's my team, bro.
How about that?
Austin, he's a big one. Good morning, y'all. This is Jen from the Four Seasons. Good morning, y'all. Missed the show yesterday. Cup bound for my oil. Gonna need more than 10 shots on net. Still impressed at the 28 straight penalty kills for them. And she says, I'm glad the Rider game is at 2 o'clock now. I get to watch it. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says culture starts at the top, not the coaching office. If it did, Flames would have 5 more cups. That's the thing. Jordan in Calgary says, please, Stamps, win the Grey Cup. Give us something to be happy about, please. Jim Vancha writes in, he says, you're right, Rod, culture starts at the top. No change with the Riders. I'll be sitting here around midsummer waiting for people to say you were right, Rod, which then I know they will never say, so I would just move on. But you picked the Stamps to be last place. Did you get any blowback at all? You should be apologizing for that. Any?
Somebody had to be there. It's tough. Somebody had to be in last place. Did I have Edmonton finishing ahead of Saskatchewan? I didn't. But the odds makers have them winning the first game at least. I didn't look to see the standings updated if they have Edmonton picked to finish ahead of Saskatchewan, if they have better Grey Cup odds. But it's just all for fun right now. You can't take anybody's picks or, too seriously. Yeah. Go back and forth and argue on it, but just have fun with it.
Guy, if in the scouting world, just because my dad was a scout in the NHL for 26 years, I know how they work. they all look back at their own draft, other teams' drafts, all the reports on players that they did sign, didn't sign, to find out who knows what they're doing. But that's just what scouts and personnel people do. Go back and look at the betting odds. What did I say to you the other day? The leader, the best picking percentage from all the pundits at the Athletic newspaper, 60%. I'm like, I can do that myself. What am I reading this for? And who did they have? Carolina was the odds-on favorite for the last month going into the Stanley Cup playoffs from MGM Bets, I think, and they didn't even get out of round 2. So at North Star Bets, again, they have Sask is third as far as the outrights, breakup bets go, and Calgary and Edmonton are tied for fourth. Just because you asked. I'm putting that out there. So, and again, none of it means anything. Landon writes in regarding culture and who's responsible. Landon says, morning. The coach creates culture because he controls the flow or practice, the way the locker room acts in and out of the building, and has control to make disciplinary or accountability action. Sure. But you know what? On some teams, I would say not every team's the same. But my good friend Jeff, the hotelier, our friend Jeff down there in the Energy City, he asked me where he could get good quality hockey content. And I said, sign up for The Athletic. I subscribe. It's the best out there. By the way, I'm not denigrating The Athletic. I'm just saying their odds pickers are no better than me. And there was an article there. He's falling in love with the story of the Panthers. I've been trying to tell you all this for 3 years. But he's with Maurice. Get this one, Darren. He's a hockey guy. They're pretty much all the same. He wears a suit 24/7. So apparently, if you see any photos, if you follow any of the Panthers' social media, when they go on road trips, they're wearing golf shirts, quarter zips, Lululemon pants, cash. And that's from the GM, Bill Zito. So he told Bill Zito, met with Paul Maurice at the start of the season, and he said, the guys are going to wear tracksuits. And Paul goes, great. I'm just going to wear a suit because that's what I do. And Zito goes, no, you're not. We're a team. You're going to wear a tracksuit. And Paul said, not a hill I want to die on. Right? Maybe it's time to get with the flow. So does that just give you a little example of how things roll? Does that how that team rolls? What do you think about that story?
Yeah, I think that's great. And you talked about culture. And I've said this before on this program. Culture, I believe, comes from different places in different organizations. So Corey May's trying to set the culture in Saskatchewan, tells me he's trying to take that back because, as we alluded to, we believe the culture has been set historically in that organization from somewhere else, right? Above the coach, at the GM and president level and other, above, and the board and everything else. So he's trying to take that back in the locker room. That's a tough task. In Calgary, we believe that the culture has been set by ownership, not by coaching and management. But clearly in Florida, culture is being set, I believe, a lot by Paul Maurice, but clearly by Bill Zito too, at the general manager level, setting the culture, and then it flows down from there. I talked about the New England Patriots. It's probably Robert Kraft setting culture today, but it was Bill Belichick. We wondered about Brady. When Brady went to Tampa Bay, we knew Tom Brady was absolutely setting the culture in Tampa. It wasn't Bruce Arians. It was Tom Brady. So it comes from different places. And when you let it come from the wrong places, then you can have a lot of trouble.
Boom. Allie, regarding who's cheering for whom in the Stanley Cup. If you're cheering for anybody, Allie says, she's in Texas. She says, I've been told several times you can't cheer for another hockey team, which I don't understand. I do it anyway. LOL. Jen at the Four Seasons says, okay, what did McAfee say? Apparently, I've been living under a rock. He referred to Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever as a white bitch. I guess you kind of just got to understand the locker room slang, the American slang. It was not meant as a derogatory term, but he's apologized, and I think he's on the air today, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. Norway, Trent writes in from Norway. He goes, Norway here. Interest in the CFL and NHL will be high for me. Glad there won't be any scheduling conflicts. As for Mr. McAfee, follow what Rod says. Don't swear on air. Stay classy. Good things happen. Exactly. Just to wrap this up, point 5, the Celtics are prohibitive favorites to win Thursday's Game 1 of the NBA Finals, and odds are on Boston to hoist what would be their record 18th consecutive banner. But the money's pouring in on the Dallas Mavericks at BetMGM Sportsbook. Senior trader Hevlor Egeland said Monday that 80% of the bets were coming on the Mavs to win their second NBA title. For the NBA fans watching, there is one CEBL game tonight. Vancouver Bandits at the Edmonton Stingers. And as we said, the Saskatchewan Rattlers, the team for which we have partnered with, are at Calgary Wednesday night. See you in hour 2, Moose.
Later.
We're broadcasting live from the Golden Ticket to Sports Center. And if you have any baseball, specifically Blue Jays-related questions, get them in now because Mike Wilner joins us next. We're live on the Game Plus television network. Also on the radio, WQEE in Atlanta, and streaming, YouTube Live, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
Now the race is on and here comes pride in the backstretch. Celebrate 40 years of Sawyer Brown. Some girls don't like boys like me. With Shenandoah. You got to get me to the church on the Cumberland Road. Plus special guest George Fox. Saturday, October 26th, Moose Jaw Event Center. I'll take the dirt road. Tickets are on sale now at the Moose Jaw Event Center box office or online at sasktix.ca. 6 days on the road and I'm Sawyer Brown and Shenandoah live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has ICAST Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
And we were on the road with the Rough Riders. Joe Womack was our strength coach, and he was rooming with Ron Estee. I'm coming down the elevator with Joe Womack, and he is so mad. And I'm like, what's wrong, Joe? And he goes, you wouldn't believe what Estee did. He's in his underwear, and he emptied the minibar. Smarties and the Kit Kats, thinking it's free, thinking it was a gift basket. And Joe looks at me, it ain't fun.
This is the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the RP Show. Hour 2 coming in hot. Oh, boy, we're in one. Live from the Golden Ticket Sports Center here in beautiful Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Tonight, we're home to the Saskatoon Berries with the Moose Jaw Millers. Let's bring in Moose. He's in Toronto. We've got stuff on the go. We've got more MLB players in trouble, Darren. You knew that we dropped a stink bomb with regards to the Rider Nation going in. That was the plan. It's worked out exactly the way that I thought. Did you see the news this morning, Darren? Let me read it here because it has to do with some of the comments that have come in from the viewers. Major League Baseball's permanently banned San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marsano for betting on baseball and suspended 4 other players for a year after finding the players placed unrelated bets with a legal sports book. That was just today. And John Ohm is watching in Winnipeg. Says, I wonder how many pro athletes are getting their buddies to bet on games for them. You see why they're getting banned forever. Because you can't have this. You can't have it. I'm fully with the leagues on this. You?
100%. 100%. You're in the game. You can't bet on the game. And, yeah, you and I can bet on the games, but that is different. Talking about getting your buddies to bet on the games, trust me, if they find any sort of correlation between bets being made and Major League Baseball players or major or professional athletes, the punishment is going to come down and it's going to be swift and it's going to be harsh. You just can't do it. Unfortunately, when you decide to be a professional athlete, you just can't live like the rest of society, and that is part of it. It's just part of what goes along with it. Just like when you go to work, in one of the potash mines in Saskatchewan, having a little extra danger goes along with it. You get compensated. You can argue about appropriately, but you get compensated danger pay, or you get compensated because of that. And professional athletes, part of the compensation is that you don't get to live a normal life.
I think in a lot of ways, what I really think this comes down to is they're dealing with young men. I mean, Pete Rose is a total other thing. I saw his name was brought up in the story. I didn't read it, but he was a manager. The young men that are players there's some working out here right now. They're kids. I don't think, understand the big picture of why you can't bet on the games, guys. They just don't get it, right? But it's not like I think they should get a second or third chance either, because these betting companies are obviously funding the leagues. They've made it very clear. Young men do dumb things. I was one. So speaking from experience here, that's what I think it is. You can tell them. Some are most are not. Most are going to follow the rules. Some aren't. And because you're going to sit there as a fan and say, why would they do this when they know they can? Why do young men do a lot of dumb things? It's inexplicable. So that is what came down the pipe there. Stanley Cup Final. Here we are on the Tuesday. It's really interesting. And again, until you've experienced life out of what you've experienced your whole life, you don't know. Like I was watching the news conference at Paul Maurice yesterday down there in Sunrise. Well, Fort Lauderdale, actually. I think they were at their practice facility. And the American media, Darren, American hockey fans, I told you about the Dodge kids, the 4 boys that we're friends with and stuff. They think of Canada like this Narnia, this wonderland of hockey. And I'm like, guess what? It is. So the media was saying to Paul Maurice yesterday, what do you think it's going to be like up there, Paul? Because you're not just playing the Oilers, you're playing all of Canada. It's exciting. And if you saw the clip from Pomo, he was like, if their rink could hold 40,000, they'd fill it. And dadgummit, he's right. You know, but let's not get it twisted here. The Panthers feel, and maybe it's a good thing, that all of Canada is against them. They told me that yesterday, one of them, when I talked to him. And that's not the case. But put your coach hat on, Darren. Would you want your players to go ahead with this narrative or not? Or does it even matter?
Of course. No, of course. Anything that can get you fired up. Look at it's us against all of Canada, and get your backs up and whatever can elicit that pride and a little extra push. There's been a lot of talk about how much is experience going to play into this. And the Panthers have that factor of having been to the Stanley Cup Final and getting, just there and not being able to cross the finish line. If you remember, Matthew Tkachuk not being able to finish that series and play in the deciding game, dealing with an injury. They're a lot healthier this time around. They have that experience. They are not surprising anybody by coming in the back door into the playoffs and backdooring their way right to the Stanley Cup Final, catching everybody's surprise. They're banging in the front door. So it's a lot of different things this year, but whatever you can do as a coach to get more out of your team, and Pomo is really, really good at that.
Oh, I've been doing a lot of these interviews, and people have asked, what is it about Paul Maurice that makes him so good at what he does? And I say, it's his intelligence. And you'd like to think, and it's true, that every NHL coach is, I would say, above average intelligence. But Paul's at another level. Just sitting and listening to him, and he's learned along the way. I mean, this goes back to what we talked about last hour with regards to culture. I feel for Winnipeg Jets fans. They are probably this summer, Winnipeg will become #1 for viewership again of this show. I don't know why it is, but it is. And those Jets fans, they just want to win so badly, and Paul Maurice was the problem. Okay, now Blake Wheeler was the problem. I don't know what it is. We had Les Lazaruk on this show. I don't think you were on that day, the voice of the Saskatoon Blades. He used to broadcast Jets games. He's like, something's missing with the Jets. Something's missing with the Flames, And it's hard when you're that guy, and trust me, I have been. And that's why I get along so well with the coaches and GMs that have been fired or players that have been cut, because you're the problem, right? It takes a while for the wheel to come around. And in Paul Maurice's case, do we now think that Paul's the problem? Do we in Winnipeg? Was he? Guy knows what he's doing, and he doesn't look back. But again, it's his intelligence. And the other thing was, I'm doing so many interviews, can't remember who I'm talking to. But I said, you know yourself, Darren, it's the push and the pull, the right buttons to push, taking the temperature of the room. You can't treat all 20 players one way, because it's 20 different buttons. And he, more than anybody, seems to get that. And it's interesting also with Chris Knobloch. I'd like to know your take on him. I broadcast his games in the Western Hockey League. We're from the same province. Like, this is when he played. That's the extent of what I know about Chris Knobloch. Do you not feel like we're just getting to know the guy? And does his expression ever change? Not that I've seen.
No, Chris Knobloch is an interesting story. And the more I get to know the story, the more I admire the man. Like, you talk about the Western Hockey League. He wouldn't just have this meteoric shot and always destined for this role. He had to really grind. And as a player, it wasn't just boom, go to the NHL, be a star in junior, all the rest. Like, he played Canadian university hockey with the Alberta Golden Bears. He cut his teeth coaching, earned this opportunity. And it's not easy. When you stick in something and are chasing your dreams and you continue to fight for it, you deal with a lot. It's hard. And so the more I learn about Chris Knobloch and the path he's gone to get here, the patience he's had, the more I admire him. And now he's had the opportunity. Granted, what a gift to have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid as this pro opportunity. But he took this group and brought them together, and really, it's been one of the best stories that we've seen in a while. So, yeah, I really like Chris Knobloch.
I know you also really like Alan May, and we spent great time together 2 years ago at the Centennial Cup. He was on here yesterday. Oilers alum, Edmonton guy, but we like to do the check marks, or at least I do, for a series. And he gave the check mark for the goaltending in the Stanley Cup Final to Florida. He gave the check mark for the defenseman to Florida. He gave the check mark for the forwards to Florida. He gave the check mark to the coaching to Florida. So why even play the damn series? Which a guy wrote in yesterday, actually it was on Twitter last night, Oilers fan, that said, you guys said all the same thing last series, Dallas-Edmonton. Yeah? Yes. Point? We're not going to be right 100% of the time. Would you... I'm giving the Oilers the check mark in forwards, by the way. When you got the best, we'll give it to them. And as I said, we got to give the Oilers something. What's your checklist in this series for all that?
Yeah, great. I'm glad you asked. I give Florida the edge in goaltending, defense, and coaching. And I give Edmonton the edge in forwards and special teams, which we know is a very big factor in this series. So 3-2. That's just an edge. And one of those is coaching. So on the ice, it's very, very close between these two. And one thing I talked about is this is what I'm really curious about for Saturday. Both of these teams deserve to be here, and they came through the front door. Florida in their series, their path, they controlled play, controlled physically, controlled puck possession, controlled scoring chances, shots on goal. They were the better team night in and night out, even when you lost games. And Edmonton typically has been the better team night in and night out, driving play, pace, shots, scoring chances, all the rest, even when they lose. Now you got the two teams that came through the front door and have controlled games playing each other. Who's going to dictate the way the game is played and the pace and all of that? We're going to find out on Saturday.
Jen at the Four Seasons writes in, she says, adding Paul Coffey, I believe, helped with our defensive play, or I guess special teams, which I believe in November when the move was made. I said, that's the biggest move right there is Paul Coffey. And, of course, got trounced by everybody, and then that's come around. Which, by the way, he's done at the end of the season, doesn't want to coach anymore. So wouldn't that be a story? It's not like the Oilers can't win this series. I think we all know that they're a tremendous hockey team, and to get this far, you have to be. I think they're reasonably healthy, except for Evander Kane. But coming up later this hour, Kevin Carius will join us from Edmonton, 1440 Sports Radio, to talk about all that. Arlen Bruce III writes in and says, great morning, RP and Moose. I mentioned earlier I have a guy in Toronto for you. If you need limousine services, Derek has many fleets. Let me know. Great show as always. Thanks, AB. Do you need a limo at all, Moose, in Toronto?
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Okay, you get lined up with AB. Now, this is really interesting question. Paul in Humboldt writes in and says, who gets the check mark for ownership? Said no one ever, by the way. I mean, it's fun to talk about it, but at this point, I don't think it matters. The owner's hay's in the barn. Like, it doesn't matter. But the belt is sitting there at center ice. Okay, guys, come get it. Because Daryl Cates in Edmonton's never won a Stanley Cup. Vincent Viola in Florida's never won a Stanley Cup. I have heard the wildest things about Daryl Cates. Good and bad, but you know what? I can't argue with where his team is. No, I don't think I've met him, but I know Bob Stauffer, the Oilers broadcaster, thinks the world of Daryl Cates. Let's put it that way. Like, I have nothing bad to say about Daryl Cates. I haven't heard anything bad about Vinny Viola in Florida. Those people that work for him worship the ground that he walks on. What it looks like with Cates is he was put Ken Holland in as GM and let him go. He's clearly that's what it looks like. Doesn't it look like that?
Yeah, it really does. You know, we want to crap all over Ken Holland as a the hockey fans, but they've been on this string of making the playoffs. They've won 6 playoff series under him. Now have made 2 conference finals. They've made it now to the Stanley Cup Final. Things continue to get better under Ken Holland. I understand the frustrations because when you get McDavid, the Oil and those first overall draft picks, the Oilers' expectations have been through the roof. But they've largely delivered some really good results, and now an opportunity to win the ultimate prize. So I think Ken Holland has done a pretty good job overall when you look back at the full body of work.
I'm not discounting the question from Paul and Humboldt. It's a really good question. It's just when we're previewing a series, we've never talked about anything like that because the owners don't have anything to do with what's going to go on the ice over the next 4 to 7 games. They don't. What would be a good check mark is who's hungrier. And oh boy, Serena and I had our Instagram live last night, and we kind of got into it over that because she's saying that the Oilers are hungrier because the fans want it more. And da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. The Panthers players don't care what their fans want or what the Oilers. It's about them in the dressing room. I kind of get what she's saying, but we're not comparing who's got a bigger fan base or who wants it more amongst the fans. That's a different conversation. Obviously, it's not about that. The Panthers have a fraction of the fan base that the Oilers do. It's got nothing to do with the hunger of the series. Deal or no deal.
Yeah, I think there's something there, though. I'll be able to stick with Serena on it a little bit. There's something there where where the fan base becomes so crazy and outside and the noise, it seeps into the building. That does seep into the building, adds pressure and that kind of, okay, we are here and this opportunity doesn't come around that often. So it adds to it. And you look at that Oiler fan base and the history and Wayne Gretzky and the championships in the 80s and the banners and all the rest. That adds to the whole aura of it. And now you're on the biggest stage and you got the two of the brightest stars in the game in McDavid and Draisaitl and the guy in McDavid who really wants to add this to his resume. It means a lot to him. And he's got to be pretty hungry right now. But the Panthers were there and tasted it last year. So,
and that's why I think they're hungry. That's why I think they're hungrier. But I guess if you want to talk about that, and I know we got to take a break here, but I saw when Edmonton clinched and the fans were crying in the crowd. I know those people. Those are my friends. I had family there, literally died in the wool Oilers fans out of the crib. My cousin Robin was there. She's like my sister. And the players too. And I've heard people say, I broke down crying at home. I jumped so high, I hit my head off the roof. Is there a little bit of you just are happy to be there on the Stanley Cup Final? I'm just putting that out there. Can we not all get freaking offended? We're just talking about it. Because with the Panthers, it wasn't that. Last year it was. What did I tell you on yesterday? They're smiling. We're back. And we know what we're getting into now. Do you know what I mean? They've got the confidence. It's a different mindset with the Panthers. Maybe a little more confidence. I don't know what it is, but it's not the same. Maybe that would be a good check mark mentality. We'll be right back. And Kevin Karius is on the way from Sports 1440 Edmonton. We're live on Game Plus Television, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at iksgameday.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop, staffed by PGA of Canada professionals, is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to your favorite daytime sports talk show. I think it's your favorite daytime sports talk. Well, it has to be, because that's why you're here, right? Just a reminder to reward your love of movies. Sign up for Landmark Extras for free today. It's a rewards program, and you'll get free movies, free concession items, invites to wonderful, fun events, private screenings like Darren and I go to. Or exclusive, it says, not private. Visit landmarkcinemas.com to choose through the 3 programs. Choose yours. Sign up for free. Get it done. Get her done. Let's bring Moose in. 902-518-3033 with regards to... oh, my God. Sober Carpenter text lines open, 902-518-3033. Sober Carpenter, non-alcoholic craft beers asked for by name in your local beer, wine, and spirit store, including Calgary Co-op. Bomber Boy writes in, he is in Calgary. And he says, show me a great coach and I'll show you a great goalie. Paul Maurice.
How about that?
You Winnipeg, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. Do you think Paul Maurice is only there because of Bob?
No. I think it's a reason. Any team that does well in the history of sports has a great goalie, a great quarterback. You know what I mean? A great pitcher. You need somebody to step up and win the games, but the coach gets the most out of his talent throughout the lineup, period. And right now, Chris Knobloch and Paul Maurice are getting the most out of their lineup, top to bottom, period. And that's what
makes them great coaches.
Yeah.
Yes, the good ones. The good ones. With regards, some guy wrote in and said, would the Riders have made the playoffs last year had Trevor Harris not got hurt? If the bear hadn't have stopped for a poop, he'd have caught the rabbit. What do we talk? It doesn't matter. They didn't.
Bob's your uncle.
The Bears stopped. Brian in Hudson's Bay writes in and he says, I disagree with you there, Rod. Teams and good teams don't overcome their quarterback injuries and keep going like nothing's happened. Ask the Bengals last year. Okay, fair, sure. You see how you and I have talked about this off air. If you're, and on air actually, because you said it not that long ago. If you're committed to believing something, there ain't nothing, ever nothing. You could be presented with the most irrefutable evidence and you still won't believe it. Right? I know. Correct? Yeah. Deal or no deal.
Yeah, that's 99% true. You know, it's very rare that you're able to change somebody if they're stuck on something. You're right. You know, you could show them, you could take them to outer space in a rocket. They'll still think the earth is flat. They'll see it, but they'll still no.
I know. You tricked that telescope.
Exactly.
Well, last hour, we were talking about the odds. It's only Tuesday, man, but, you know, there's a lot. We're on Canadian national television. There's obviously millions of CFL fans. That's a fact. And a lot of them watch this show. So we were talking last hour about the point spreads for the Week 1 games, which, by the way, Steven in San Diego, I'll answer your question here in a second because it pertains to the CFL. But Montreal's at Winnipeg Thursday. Grey Cup rematch. Bombers favored by 7. Friday, Hamilton's at Calgary. Stamps favored by 1. Saturday, Sask at Edmonton. Elks favored by 2.5, and Sunday, BC at Toronto, and the Lions favored by 6.5. And Darren was surprised the Riders weren't favored going into Edmonton. And I said, why would they be favored? They're not much better than Edmonton the last couple of years. And I went so far as to say they're a dysfunctional organization. They're starting over with a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator, a new running back shoot, a new radio broadcaster. They're not stable. People are, but they're excited about the change and so forth. And I've just been perusing what they're saying on our Facebook page about that. And number one, a lot of women chiming in. Rider Nation's 50-50, male, female. I think every fan base is. But one lady, Leanne, she's like, this doesn't look good on you, Rod. I don't care how it looks. I'm in the business of the Rod Pedersen Show. Okay? We're in the clicks business, the eyeballs business, and it is also what I feel. So why would I hold back and bite my lip? I've been biting it for 5 years. So we'll see how it turns out. You're more than welcome to come back and say that I'm wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong come Labor Day or playoff time. I don't know. I was wrong about the Florida Panthers last series. I thought the New York Rangers were going to win, and Darren, I brought the hat to put on today. So how about that?
It looks good.
That is a good old hockey hat right there. CCM across the front. Yeah. So I'm just saying, I'm just going to sit here every day and give you my opinion. I'm not always going to be right. Nobody's always right. But, of course, everybody's going to get upset about that, and that's fine. Just watch. So Stephen in San Diego, America's finest city, writes in on the Sober Carpenter text line and says, hey, Rod, Steve from San Diego, long-time listener. Quick question. I'm setting my CFL Fantasy League lineup and noticed that Zach Collaros is listed as questionable for the Bombers. My Fantasy League only allows for 1 quarterback. So please tell me, do I need to drop and pick up another quarterback, or do I go with Collaros? I feel like I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. And I appreciate you, Stephen, but what was my first inclination? Texting my Bomber friends like Doug Brown and saying, is he going to play or not? And then I'm like, no. I can't be the fantasy expert guy. I'm hardly the betting guy. Do you want to take a swing at this guy's fantasy question? That's just not what I do.
Yeah, keep him. That's what I'll tell you. You know, if you're dropping him and somebody else is going to, you know, you don't put Zach Collaros as a free agent and let somebody else go and pick him up. Tom Brady was listed as questionable every single week when he was with the Patriots. Every single game. Or listed as probable or whatever. I don't see a way where Zach Collaros isn't on the field as a starting quarterback in week 1. Yeah, it could change, but you make that decision closer to game time.
Thank God you're here to handle that kind of stuff. I don't play fantasy football. I don't really get it, and I don't want to. But I know you're in fantasy leagues in the NFL, and that's fantastic. To the audience we go regarding the Oilers and the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final. More from Jen at the Four Seasons. She says, I'm happy for Connor, Dry, Skinner, but I can't read what you're saying. Spell check, please. I'm trying. Mandy in Edmonton says, okay, that's it. I'm buying tickets for this Saturday. You're welcome, CFL, because sitting here talking about this, hype whips it up. They know that. They're starting to know that. Everything's coming around. And Mandy goes on to say, I have 2 caps, Elks and Sask. My son and I wear one each. Diversity is strength, LOL. Okay, where I say things are coming around, I read an article. DEI. Do you know what that stands for?
Yeah.
DEI? You're hearing this? Diversity, equality, and inclusion.
Yeah.
And how there's a backlash towards it in corporate America. I'm not sure if it's hit Canada yet or not. But in America, it is. DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion, and how it's not necessarily a bad thing. Corporations are pushing. It's the woke movement. They've just put a name on it, right? And they're saying it's not necessarily what you want for your company. And, you know, ESPN's huge on that. The NFL, but Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, had a comment on this, and he goes, you know what? Companies can do whatever they do. He goes, we're not going to speak for any other company but ours. But it works for us. Inclusion with regards to the pride logos and whatever else they want to push. But they don't really push it. Less than any other league. I feel like the NFL doesn't push it, but they're not anti anything. So I'm interested because this came across my desk the other day, and I read it, and I was quite interested in it. Because we're about inclusion here, equality, and if you don't like it, turn it off. But we'll take anybody in to watch this show. Anybody's welcome. What's your take on the DEI pushback in the corporate
When it's
world?
applied properly, it's a great thing for organizations, and it should help your organization grow and actually become more profitable, better. It's just about being a good company and doing things the right way. It's not designed to sit there and say you're going to hire one person over another person. That's not what it's about, but that's what people on the other side of it will say when you accuse somebody of being woke, that you're making a decision, based on this. It's actually more about the process than anything, and having an open mind and not looking at race or gender or any of these other things when you're making decisions, and really hiring the best people for the job. So when it's applied properly, it's a beautiful thing. And we do need more of it in the world. Absolutely. So it is good, but it is very divisive.
Well, I'd boil it down to something this. How about anti-hate? We don't hate anybody. So come on in. You know what I mean? That's that's the whole idea of inclusion. And I've gone far enough down this road that I don't want to go anymore. By the way, the Saskatchewan Rattlers pro basketball team's heating up this season, and they're led by former NBA Toronto Raptor Jalen Harris with talent and coaching staff from the LA Clippers. Be sure to get your tickets now and do not miss the action at SaskTel Center this summer. Visit Ticketmaster.ca or head on down to the Rattlers front office in downtown Saskatoon. CEBL tonight, CEBL tonight. Vancouver's at Edmonton. Wednesday, the Rattlers visit the Calgary Surge. Kind of wish that I would be there. Craig Campbell, our buddy Craig Campbell, writes in from the Hockey Hall of Fame. He says, great time of year with the Stanley Cup games on their way, football starting up, all covered brilliantly by the RP Show.
How about that?
Thank you, Craig. That is our focus. Hockey and football, that's what we do around here with a little samplings, little side dishes of baseball and basketball. And I'll be calling minor league baseball tonight. The Saskatoon Berries in town. We're going to have our way with them. With the Moose Jaw Millers. There was a comment here that I wanted to read, Darren, but we don't have time. Jeff, the Stamps fan, says companies need to work on meritocracy. Companies, leagues, teams, we don't have time for that. That's just a given. We're done, Moose. We'll see you later. You have a great day.
You bet. Thank you.
We're going to get the Edmonton side of the Stanley Cup Final when we come back with the great Kevin Curious, my oldest friend in this perilous trade. from Sports 1440 Radio up there. We're live from the Golden Ticket Sports Center on the Game Plus Television Network, WQEE Radio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven. And I'm Connor Bedard. We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors. There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Oh, yeah, he's back. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Everybody, you know when we talk hockey, it's for Common Crown Brewing out of Calgary. Head on down to the tap room Thursday through Saturday, noon to 8 p.m., 28th Street Northeast in Cowtown. Just a snapshot away from the old Crossroads Flea Market. Let's bring in Kevin Carius. We know that. Area A, Dickie. Good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Good to see you in the gymnasium. First time in your life.
That's very good. Very good. Didn't take you long. Okay, Kevin. For the Edmonton, fill this in, please. The Edmonton Oilers will beat Florida and win the Stanley Cup if blank.
They don't beat themselves. That's simple. That's been the mantra, I would say, in all three series so far. More importantly, in the last two. But if they play to their level, they are the best team in the league, and I truly believe that. The only team that scared me so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs was actually Colorado before Val Nichushkin got his situation off the ice. That broke up that line that was a beast. But right now, there isn't a team that scares me more than the Edmonton Oilers, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in Edmonton and cover the team, but that's what I truly believe.
Well, number one, did you see Paul Maurice's comment that if they had a 40,000 rink seat in Edmonton, 40,000 seat rink in Edmonton, they'd fill it? Great for business, eh? For Sports 1440, I bet.
We're having a hell of a time right now. It's been great. It reminds me of a lot of 2006, obviously, and I did a lot of games that year doing Oilers radio as a color commentator. So it reminds me a little bit, but in the same sense, Normie, it's so far apart because back then the Oilers just they snuck into the playoffs. They upset Detroit and then moved on, with wins to get to the Stanley Cup Final. But this was different, and it all led to last year after the loss against the Vegas Golden Knights. And to move on from that to the start they had, and then with the firing of the coach, it's been a crazy season to see them get to where they are right now. And here they are, 4 wins away from a Stanley Cup championship.
You've been around and inside that organization as much or more than anybody. So I got to ask you this. I hope you know the answer. You might not. Something changed with Stuart Skinner. I saw the numbers for the first 8 games of the playoffs. He was above 3.0 goals a game and below 900 save percentage. The last 8, he's been below 3 goals a game and above 900 save percentage. What happened? Do you know? What changed?
Well, okay, after he got the hook against Vancouver, Cal Pickard comes in for 2 games. And at that point, a lot of people weren't sure if it was the right call to go back to Stuart Skinner in game number 6 and then 7 against Vancouver. And since then, as you just mentioned, he has been very, very good. I think Stuart Skinner, and I've been lucky enough to have him to my golf tournament, my charity golf tournament. He is a mentally strong guy. His character is second to none. I've been following the guy since they were on the Bantam teams here in Edmonton. They had the Southside Athletic Club, and they had a hell of a team with Tyler Benson. And then on the other side of the fence was in Sherwood Park with Sam Steele. Those guys butted heads for a long time. But you've seen him being mentally strong, and that's the toughness that you have to have at this level. I think that would be the number one factor why he has been able to rebound.
Well, it's a great answer. I mean, that was the exact point where he got lifted, but I'm like, did they bring in Tony Robbins? Or like, who's the goalie coach? Is it Dustin Schwartz? Like, did he talk to somebody? Did he do it on his own? What? Something happened beyond him just being pulled for a couple games.
His family is a big thing, comes from 9 kids. I think, support group is massive, and it's not just within the organization. Dustin Schwartz has done a very good job, in my opinion. He was getting lambasted at the start of the year when Campbell and Stu were not playing to their potential. But it's a support group outside. I believe family has a big faith and family for him, big. So I would put that into the category as well, into that translation.
Great. That was like the number one thing I wanted to ask you today. Now, on the flip side, what really scares you about Florida?
They got a hell of a team. I think this is going to be a great series. I was talking about it on the show this morning on 1440, Roddy. Yes, Connor McDavid hasn't seen anyone in the likes of Sasha Barkov going head-to-head in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. But the Oilers also have that second bullet in the chamber with Leon Draisaitl. And think about what Leon has done in the last couple of games with his line mates. When you take 2 guys that came out of the press box and you put them on line number 2, and Leon is still driving that line. So that's something that the Florida Panthers haven't seen. They haven't seen the best player in the world and then arguably one of the top 3-4 guys in the world back to back. So that's going to be one of the key components in this series for sure.
Well, the other one, and I say this 100% with respect, because he's from Imperial Sask and a former Red Deer Rebel, Chris Knobloch. He just looks like a damn funeral director in his black suit and his, his dusty hair. Same visage, as they say, same expression all the time. He can't be that guy behind closed doors. I can't think. Tell us a little more about Chris Knobloch.
He is. I'll tell you what. This is the true story, Normie. He gets hired, and everyone's meeting him. The media's meeting him, and they're talking to him. And he goes, "Well, I remember you." And I go, "Well, why would you even remember me? I mean, it's 25 years ago." So he's playing for the Alberta Golden Bears under Rob Daum. And at that point, Rob Daum would send out 2, 3, 4 guys that were very well spoken to the media on more of a consistent, regular basis. Chris Knobloch was one of those guys. So I interviewed him in 98, 99. He was with the Edmonton Ice before that until he graduated out of U of A. Probably interviewed him a dozen times. But to think that he would remember that blew me away. I don't know how we are for time. I got a great story that's got the Saskatchewan.
Keep going. For you all day.
Oh, thanks, Normie. Because of Knobloch, again from Imperial, played 5 years for Rob Daum at the U of A. They had great teams. I mean, these guys were unbelievable back then. But Rob Daum was from Churchbridge, Saskatchewan. So here's a great story for all your Saskatchewan viewers and listeners, Roddy. About 1979, 1980, Rob Daum is one of the best fastball players around Saskatchewan. Eddie Feiner, king in his court, are barnstorming through Canada, the United States. King in the court, massive fastball. They got a pitcher, catcher, shortstop, first baseman. That's it. The shortstop for King in his court blows his wrist out, breaks his wrist. They need to find someone to continue the tour for the rest of the summer. Rob Daum is playing for this Churchbridge team. He's working at the potash mine in Esterhazy, Saskatchewan. Eddie Feiner calls him and says, "Can you join us for the rest of the summer?" He goes, "No, I can't. I got a great job at the mine." 20 guys grab him by the throat and say, "Get your arse out there." And he toured Saskatchewan, Alberta, the States, Manitoba for the rest of the summer as the shortstop for King in his court.
How about that?
Have you ever heard that story before? Rob Daum, yep.
No, and I'm wondering what it has to do with the Stanley Cup Final.
Well, not much, but I would say a lot because a guy like Chris Knobloch learned an awful lot from Rob Daum.
I'm teasing you, of course.
Come on, Norm.
Well, Churchbridge, home of Kevin Kaminsky. Let's not forget that. And I just looked up Knobloch's hockey DB. I was like, you said the Edmonton Ice, and you're right. But I'm like, why do I remember him with Red Deer? 95 to 97.
Yeah.
It's going back a ways, but I didn't kill all those brain cells. And the Lethbridge Hurricanes, too. Dickie, I'm hoping find my way up there for Game 4. We'll see how things go. But, looking forward to chatting on your station on Friday. And thanks for this time, man. I always enjoy it.
Perfect. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you up here when you get here. That would be great.
All right. Thank you, bud. The inimitable Kevin Carius from Sports 1440 Edmonton. We'll be right back with Overtime, which includes viewer takeover and a sports update after this. We're on Game Plus Television all across Alberta on TELUS Channel 924, Shaw Rogers Channel 230, on the radio in Atlanta, WQEE, and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube Live.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. House.
Hi, my name's Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sitting here, Mickey Mouse, and not ready to come back for overtime, brought to you by our friends at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Calgary, where skill and fun collide. Give them a call if you're in the Calgary area or anywhere around southern Alberta. They got summer camps for kids, unlimited memberships for $99 a month, unlimited lane time. You're a hockey town. Now go prove it at Overtime Hockey Lanes in Cowtown. Okay. Bomber Boy, my apologies to you, Bomber Boy. He had written in earlier and says, it's a quote, I guess, from Paul Maurice. He wrote in on the Sober Carpenter text line and said, show me a great coach and I'll show you a great goalie. And I'm like, oh, you got to get over this, you Winnipeg fans. And he goes, that's not my quote, that's his. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. My bad. There's a little more to it than that, but that's just him being humble and demure. Look it up. Stephen in San Diego writes back and says, thanks, Moose. You're the man. He had a fantasy football question. I'm just not going to BS you. I don't like to live in the fantasy. I like to live in the reality. That's just me. Call me crazy. Moose, however, all over it. Steer all fantasy football-related questions to Moose. Sports update. Hockey fans in Edmonton are counting down the hours until the Oilers hit the ice this weekend for the beginning of their first Stanley Cup Final series in nearly 2 decades. I'm reading this, by the way, from the Canadian Sports Wire Service. Game 1 of the best-of-7 series against the Panthers goes Saturday night in Sunrise. The Oilers were Canada's last hockey dynasty, winning 4 cups in the 1980s, followed by a 5th in 1990. They last appeared in the final in 2006. This is written for like if you just landed from Mars in Canada and didn't know what we all know that. And I'll put on my Florida hat. Literally and figuratively, and say, there's another team playing too, you know. Hi, Florida Panthers. We're counting down the days too. But that's a little bit of what's going on in Canada. You can see why the Panthers fans have a chip on their shoulder. It's what it is. You're going to hear from them before this is over. I don't know who's going to win. All the numbers and stats will tell you the Panthers are going to win, but I don't know. That's why we play the games. That's why we're going to watch the games. It's funny how they down there don't know what it's like up here, and they up here don't know what it's like down there. As I sit and broadcast from Golden Ticket Sports Center here in Moose Jaw, it's 2 different worlds meeting in the Stanley Cup Final. The Toronto Blue Jays continue a 4-game series with the Baltimore Orioles tonight at Rogers Center. The Jays entered Monday's opener with 5 wins in 6 games, but were thumped 7-2 by their division rivals. Toronto enters tonight's action in last place in the American League East and 5 games out of a wild card spot. We had Mike Wilner on last hour, and I really get a lot out of the chats with Mike Wilner, the host of the Jays Talk, was the Jays Talk postgame show for years on Fan 590 Toronto. Now the Jays Talk podcast. I just said, are they going to fire somebody? Because that's what we do in hockey and football. More so hockey. There was that study out about a month ago, right, that is like hockey fires more coaches than any other pro league, especially the NHL. And he was like, well, what's that going to do? That's what Wilner said. So I'm learning baseball, broadcasting games for the Miller Express. And tonight we have the Saskatoon Berries in town. But I don't know that I'll ever really get it. I don't know if I'll ever really understand it. That's why we got to bring on Mike Wilner and just sort it out. What's firing anybody going to do? I don't know. Light a fire under these guys that can't hit the ball? I don't know. So I'm asking you. Sports Update is brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. In Landmark Cinemas now, the movie If, from writer and director John Krasinski. If is about a girl who discovers that she can see everyone's imaginary friends and what she does with that superpower as she embarks on a magical adventure to reconnect forgotten ifs with their kids. If stars Ryan Reynolds, John Krasinski, Kaylee Fleming, Fiona Shaw, and the voices of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Louis Gossett Jr., and Steve Carell. Also brought to you by Common Crown Brewing Company, turning your everyday common beer into a unique and exceptional experience. Check them out at commoncrown.ca. Common Crown Lager. Sorry, Bomber Boy. I didn't know the quote from Paul Maurice. Show me a good coach and I'll show you a good goalie. It is what it is. Natasha from Winnipeg writes in. She goes, now that it's Paul Maurice against Canada, hockey's going to be fun to watch again. Go Cats. See, that's why I like Winnipeg, and that's why I like Winnipeg people. They're cheering for Florida because of Paul Maurice. Do I have that right, Winnipeg? Let me know. The Winnipeg people that I see that are writing into the show are saying that. Jeff the Stamps fan writes in and says, thanks, Rod. I now know what demure means. I did look it up. What does it mean? Let me look it up. Definition of demure. I haven't used it for a long time. Reserved, modest, and shy.
How about that?
That's Paul Maurice just being reserved, modest, and shy. I read a lot as a child. 902-518-3033 is our text line here. Patrolman Pete writes in from Winnipeg and says, I've been listening 45 minutes behind the live feed today, but I wanted to chime in and say that it's been an enjoyable show as always.
How about that?
How about that? Thank you. People don't normally write in and say good things in today's world. So thank you, Patrolman Pete. Wayne in BC says, way to knock it out of the park with Kevin Carius. Great interview, Rod. My oldest friend in the business. You want to know the very first day of broadcast school? He was in second year. I was in first year. First day, he comes into the amphitheater with Craig Adam, the real estate magnate, and goes, we're from the Broadcasting Bombers hockey team. We need a goalie. Are there any goalies here in year one? And I'm in the back. A star is born. And a friendship, too. Oh, interesting. Randy from Winnipeg says, no, Winnipeg's cheering for 97. I feel like that's a great poll for Winnipeggers. Monty, you just worry about Monty. Oh, we're out of time. We'll see you at the ballpark tonight. Come on out to Ross Wells, everybody. The Berries are in town. The rest of you will see you tomorrow.
Who has more fun than us?